Welcome back to the channel, and today we're taking a look at the brand new Vosteed Parallel. This is a rather interesting one in my opinion, and it seems like we're seeing more and more of these in the community. And what I'm talking about is the hyper thin knives, and I gotta say, for summertime carry, I like it. I'm definitely down with it. You know, it's not going to be my go-to if I got to do a bunch of heavy work, but, you know, as a light-duty EDC, I think it's a great option if you work in an office environment or you want a nice modern gent-style carry knife. You know, if you're going to be wearing a suit for a wedding or something, this thing's not going to print and it's going to be very, very lightweight. The Parallel comes in 3 different variations. The one you see here with the blasted tie and the satin blade with the green accents. They also have one with a satin blade and black titanium with orange accents, and one that's all blacked out with a black wash blade and black tie. And that one has blue accents. I like the size of this one, coming in at 7.04 inches, so you have a nice full-size knife. Fits my medium-sized hands just right. You get a 2.9 inch blade, so this one's going to be legal in a lot of areas, especially if you have 3 and under blade laws. This one's right under that mark. We have a reverse tanto blade of 154 cm steel, and mine has a nice satin finish on it. Nice top swedge up here for some flair. You got a nice small row of functional jimping. You got a nice needle-like tip there. Great for doing drag cuts. Very fine, detailed, precision work, piercing. And being that you have just a ever so slight belly here, it's still going to be pretty versatile. In hand cuts, it's going to excel. You can still cut on a flat cutting surface, but you're only going to get about this much of the edge onto the surface before either the scales or your knuckles going to come in contact with the cutting board. Now, one thing I noticed right off the back, and it's a negative for me, is the sharpening choil. That plunge line goes right there to the back. You can already start to see it flare just a little bit. I just don't understand it. It seems like this year that's been a problem with so many companies, and that's either something I'll have to do myself or just let it widen more and more and kind of jack up my stones. If you want to, you can fix it yourself. However, you can see where that crossbar is being the stop right there for the blade. So you just have to be careful. I usually put a mark where it's at so I don't grind anything past that, because if you grind any of the steel behind that, it could allow this blade to seat further, causing some blade wrap into the backspace or something. But on the bright side, we have some excellent blade geometry here. It starts with this super thin blade stock coming in at 0.079. That is even thinner than a Benchmade bug out stock. Very thin. And this flat grind comes down to around 12 thousandths behind the edge. So this thing should slice very, very well. Let's find out. Whenever I started doing the testing to this one, I took in mind that the use of this knife is going to be, you know, light duty, like an office carry, something you can make a quick cut with and go about your day. I mean, if you're wanting to do something for a long period of time, or you're going to be putting tons of pressure, you're going to want something with a little bit more thickness, and that's okay. There's, you know, the right tool for the job when you can do that. It's going to really, this blade shape's going to really excel at doing stuff like this. Pretty much anything in hand. If I had to, you know, take a guess, this kind of stuff, the drag cuts, because you got a very, very needle-like tip up there, and it was a little scalpel. Now this one came sharp. Now it wasn't hair splitting sharp, but I'm sure I could have probably hit it up on a strop and made it hair splitting sharp. And this right here is what I'm talking about. Okay, so I started doing some light pressure, and light pressure is totally fine. But when you really start putting some force into it, you're going to start feeling every part of this handle. And it's nothing to do with any crazy hot spots or anything. It's the thinness. And this thing comes in at like 0.28 inches thick, and your average thickness on a regular knife is like 0.5. So, you know, I can't really complain about it being uncomfortable for too much pressure, at least in my opinion. Now, once again, I would never grab a knife like this to do a bunch of this type of work. The hard push down cuts can be done, but because of that, I think like 50 or so, and just to show that it can do it. and it wasn't the easiest doing it on the flat cutting surface, but you have just the right amount of belly to where you can get about a quarter of the way back onto the cutting board of the cutting edge. So once again, this isn't probably the blade shape I would choose if I had to do this kind of stuff. And it would be something with a little bit thicker of a handle and maybe a little bit more belly. But if you had to do it in a pinch, can you? Of course. And 154 cm, it's such a well-balanced steel. It takes a screaming sharp edge. It can hold a reasonable edge. It's got good toughness. It's got good corrosion resistance. And yeah, I like it. I've always liked 154. It's very easy to sharpen. It's very easy to strop back. And it's holding a really good edge here. And I would say this, when I'm doing this dent stuff like that corner cardboard, the thin blade stock, man, that and slicing cardboard, it just makes it glide through so well because you don't have any side walls of that steel catching on anything. Yeah, I enjoyed this one for what the knife is. Now let's take a look at the deployment and action of this knife. You have dual thumb studs that are easily accessible. You have a crossbar lock and you have a reversible clip. So this is completely ambidextrous. Good job, Vosteed. And let's see, how do they do on the tension of that crossbar lock? Outstanding. Not to mention, it's an adjustable crossbar lock. You have 3 different tension settings. Nice and smooth action riding on bearings. I can reverse flick it. I can flip it out with the crossbar lock if I want. Thumb flick it, and if I want to slow roll it, I can do that as well. I was kind of surprised. I did not expect it to have such a nice action because this is a smaller, thinner blade, lighter blade. So they did a really good job of getting that tension just right. Now let's take a look at these handles. You have titanium scales on this. These have a light bead blasted finish, big chamfers going all the way around, and they even have a little bitty chamfer on the sides to soften those edges to make it more comfortable so you don't have a hard angle there. Your hardware, you have a Torx T8 for the pivot. The only T6 screw you have is for this screw right here, and that's holding the liner for the Omega springs. Other than that, the clip screw and the 2 body screws, those are all T8, so I'm good with that. And they have a triangle-shaped lanyard hole for the lanyard people out there. Like I said earlier, in this one you have lime green accents for your thumb studs and your aluminum backspacer there. We have a tip up deep carry wire pocket clip that is reversible, and it goes in and out of the pocket really nicely. And then it goes all the way to about right there. All you have is this little portion sticking up, and this thing is so lightweight that you could carry this in a shirt pocket without it weighing the shirt pocket down. These are coming in at 2.29 ounces, so that's why I said in the beginning, this is a perfect summer knife for me. I've been really enjoying all of the smaller options from Vosteed because they really hit it home this year with the mini acorn, the mini psyop, and the raccoon cub. These have been my rotation here lately, especially this little guy because it's such a slicey little blade. But now I'm incorporating the new Parallel, especially when I want something a little bit bigger with a little bit more edge to it. All 4 of the knives I just showed, those are all great carries, especially like I said, when it's hot outside. I don't want a big old brick of a knife in my pocket because it makes me sweat that much more. The lockup on the crossbar lock. Now, of course, being how thin this blade is and how thin the scales are, I can flex the blade side to side, but I don't have any movement in the pivot area. That's all I'm really looking for. And I don't have any up and down slide. That's something that's really common with crossbar locks just because of the tension on those Omega springs. But mine, I don't have any movement right now. And even if it does get a little bit of up and down sliding, I'm perfectly fine with it as long as it's not causing it to disengage. Now for some quick size comparisons, we have the Vosteed, is it Tolosaurus or something like that? And then the Vosteed Corgi. Tolosaurus is a hair longer. It's much more in line with the Corgi. And it's a little bit shorter than the Vosteed Morel. And it's almost identical to the Vosteed Thunderbird Compact, the smallest Thunderbird. And it's a little bit shorter than the Ontario Rat 2. It's almost identical in length to the QSP Penguin. Now for my nitpicks and complaints, my only real nitpick on this knife is the sharpening choil. I would have loved for them to give us a bigger sharpening choil. I know that's something I can add, and it's something you don't have to put, but it would have just made my life a whole lot easier. And the last thing is just a nitpick for me and my medium-sized hands. Now, if you have large hands, this may be different for you, but being that you have this skinny handle and then you have this somewhat of a larger choil right here, it's not the most comfortable for me to choke up right here because there's just not enough room before this falls off. Now, if they would have like rounded this, if they would have made this like a choil in this area, like just scooped it out, then it would have been nice. So I'm pretty much forced back here on the handle. For my medium-sized hands, I still get a 4-finger grip. And like I said, as long as your intentions for this knife is light-duty EDC stuff, then yeah, it's perfectly fine for that. But whenever I was doing wood shaving and I was all the way back like this and I was really bearing down, this pocket clip was destroying my palm and the sides of the scales were destroying my hands. You know, it's just not super comfortable whenever you have super skinny scales like that to really, really give it all you got. That's why I always said the Benchmade Narrows would be a nightmare to use. But what are my final thoughts on the Parallel? Like I said in the very beginning, as my summertime knife, I am loving it. It's very, very lightweight, not to mention that thin profile. It doesn't print in the pants. I wear lightweight fishing shorts just about every day ever since my accident because it's the only thing that doesn't hurt my scarring on my legs. So for me, yeah, no brainer. If you work in an office and you want something that you can carry that's, you know, a decent size and it's not going to weigh down your pockets, not going to weigh you down at all, I think it looks nice, and you're okay with any of the nitpicks I talked about, then yeah, I could highly, highly recommend it. These come in at $129, and while it's 9,000 degrees here in Louisiana, the humidity is at 100% pretty much every single day. These will continue to be my summertime knives. I'm literally rotating from these anytime I'm going outside. Now, I don't do that a whole lot, but I still carry these. But if I have a full-size knife in my pocket while I'm inside doing, say, testing and stuff, as soon as I go outside, even just to walk the dog, one of these is on my table and I throw it in the pocket. You know, this one I love. I think it's so nice looking and it's lightweight. I want to get the carbon fiber one like this too. And I love Vosteed's L-Max. But all these, great options. And it really hasn't been a Vosteed that I did not like. And you know what else I thought of right whenever I saw this knife? I thought of this being a super skinny, streamlined version of the Datsun. Definitely have that similarity, except the Datsun is more of a utility blade shape because it's more of a straight edge. This one scoops up. And then instead of the square end choil, you have the longer one on the Datsun. Another great knife. This one, gotten so smooth. I carry this one an awful lot as well. Vosteed tends to live rent-free in my pockets pretty much year-round. So, very interested to hear y'all thoughts. Did any of y'all pick up the Parallel today when it dropped? At the time I posted this video, they were still available. And if you're interested in this knife, I will have it linked down in the description. It will be an affiliate link, so if you want to help support what I do here on this channel, which helps me pay for my testing materials, awesome. If not, no big deal. I'll also have a link to the new Vosteeds underneath the link to this one. So either one of them you want to use is fine. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave those down below. I hope everybody's having an absolute amazing day. I will see y'all on the next one. Peace!